guys, welcome to your pick a card video. So today I've got 4 different piles for you, each with a different message from source. And so kind of my intention with this reading is to distill information from all the various things that we have going on in our life. So I feel like sometimes when we're going through, just our life, there's a couple of different things all going on at once that are all kind of trying to teach us the same lesson. And sometimes when we're in the middle of all of those things, it's hard to kind of be able to pinpoint what's tying everything together. So this is a video to help you kind of figure it out. So like with all of the pick a card readings, your intuition may be calling you to a couple of different piles, and with that, there may be a couple of different messages for you in each of those piles. So feel free to skip around and take what resonates and leave what doesn't, because multiple people will watch these. Some of the messages will be meant for other people. That being said, if you need a little bit more time to pick your deck, go ahead and pause this video, but we're going to go ahead and get started with pile number 1. Hello, welcome pile 1. Let's go ahead and pull your first cards. Alright, so this top row up here is going to be what's going on in your life, and then as we pull the next cards, it'll distill into a single point, which is what Spirit is trying to teach you. So first card here, you've got the Page of Cups, which is all about being vulnerable. It's like a particular kind of vulnerability where it's like sharing the things that we're feeling. So it's like our emotions, because the Suit of Cups deals with the emotional aspect. And pages are all about this kind of like novice, beginner, but it's kind of like fun, bubbly, bright energy. So for some people, this could be kind of like a person who has entered into the picture for you as somebody who really is not afraid to kind of like share what they're feeling. Sometimes it's almost like they share it a little bit too much, where it's like the things that they're sharing are just kind of like these fleeting whims, and they're not really these more long-lasting kind of like deep-set emotions. But for other people, I think this is going to be a positive sign for you to kind of like start being a little bit more vulnerable with the people around you, or maybe that's even one of the kind of like situations in your life, as there has been talk about just kind of like needing to open up or like share a little bit more. With the Page, this is still like a beginner in this area, if that makes sense. Like they're kind of like, again, this novice energy. So it's like you may not have everything fully figured out, or again, this other person maybe doesn't have everything fully figured out, but there's still this like willing to engage with others through your heart center. So through just kind of like what it is that your heart is needing, or what it is that your heart is feeling. The next card that we have here is the Ace of Pentacles in reverse. So Ace of Pentacles, when it is upright, is all about a new beginning in the earthly realm. Oh, sorry about that. A new beginning in the kind of like earthly realm. So it's like the different minor arcanas are different elements. Cups deals with the emotions, which are not tangible. You can't physically hold these things. The Suit of Pentacles deals with the earth. So this is kind of like physical matter, money, job, house, finances. It's all of these kind of more tangible things that we kind of touch and interact with in a day-to-day basis. With it being in reverse here, it's kind of saying that I feel like for you guys, pile 1, I feel like you guys have maybe been wanting to start something new. Maybe this is like a new business, find a new job, get a new house, move somewhere even, and things have kind of not been happening like that for you. Maybe some doors have been closing, or, again, you maybe have been trying to apply for jobs and been kind of like denied those opportunities. But there's something about kind of like wanting this newness that's not quite there, but it's like, or that's not quite manifesting. It's interesting that it's next to the Page of Cups, because both the Page and the Ace are about kind of like beginnings, but kind of different aspects of it. And Ace is a total brand new beginning. It is one, or, like starting over from 0. So it's like that first real iteration of something. The Pages come after the 10 in the minor arcana, so it's like after you've gone through this whole cycle, you've kind of taken something out of that and decided that that's a thing that you want to develop a little bit more fully. So it could be that you have, it's like you're looking for a totally brand new beginning, but maybe the beginning that is trying to manifest for you is something that's kind of based on these things that you've just gone through. And so let's go ahead and read the Black Numen from the book, since that is one of the non-traditional tarot cards here. Okay, so Void, Pending Loss, and Corrosion, but again, this is in reverse. So the 2 Numen face their own extinction. 2 branches upside down, just about to burn into the sacred fire. The world is about to be spun upside down. Oh, and this is upside down. So maybe your world is about to turn right side up since it is in reverse. And yet they still guard their altar, which drowns slowly into the depths. Once absorbed by the haze, their sacred nature shall depart, simple beast once more. Still, with the promise of a re-encounter of the divine, the Black Numen symbolizes clinging on to a cause that may seem lost. Distraction and confusion, a challenge of faith with the knowledge that it shall return. Very interesting. So kind of in relation to what I just said here about how it's kind of like there's like almost like wanting to start something new entirely when it's like the real thing that you should be doing is kind of going back through the things that you just experienced and kind of like taking something out of that to develop or work on. The Black Numen here is about how it's like the two animals are like refusing to leave their like altar or kind of like, you know, this one area essentially. And even though they are sinking or, you know, they are about to be submerged into this black stuff here, you know, they're still holding out, you know, like holding on to hope for this particular thing. With it being in reverse, though, I feel like it's almost like you abandoned something too soon. It's like there's this thing that may have looked like it was sinking, but really it just needed kind of like a helping hand to kind of help pull it back out of the muck. And yeah, and so it's like with it being in reverse here, I think that's kind of like another just thing that's been going on in your life lately has been that it's like leaving something too soon, or maybe somebody else left something without any closure, so it felt like they kind of left a little too soon. This card also reminds me of the Devil card a little bit because the two Numen have like this like there's this floating black orb here that's got these two little chains that kind of connect to them, which to me reminds me of like the Devil card with like the two lovers chained at the bottom of the Devil's altar. So that's all about kind of like overcoming bad habits and addiction. So maybe one of your bad habits that Spirit has been kind of like trying to get through to you lately is that it's like you leave things a little bit too soon. It's like if you stick around and try to work on something, it may not be as lost of a cause as you initially thought it might be. So the last card that we have here for this top row is the Six of Wands upright. So Six of Wands is all about victory. Hooray! So again, it's like through all of these things here, it's like there is still this sense of victory and you are wanting to achieve just something awesome for yourself. With this card being upright, I do think that you have started to have these kind of like smaller victories, which may even be a little frustrating since it's like you don't have like this big reset that you're looking for, but it's like almost like because the Suit of Wands deals with kind of like the element of fire, which is like our passions, it's almost like you have like internally felt victorious for kind of like almost like working through something, or like it's like I think you accomplished something here, even with these like this Ace of Pentacles in reverse and the Black Numen in reverse. Like, I feel like you left something that wasn't serving you anymore, but there's still something that's kind of like unfinished there. But it's like, I think leaving was a big part of the process, which is why there's this victory here. So it's like you've gotten partial victory, but not quite this like full victory yet. Maybe for some people, maybe for others, you have gotten like, you know, this full victory because this card is upright. I'm going to go ahead and pull a clarifying card for this to make sure we've said everything we need to about that. And with the Page of Cups and the Six of Wands, even though this Ace of Pentacles is in reverse, I do feel like there is a new beginning for you. I feel like maybe though it's like the new beginning that you're kind of ultimately looking for. It's not going to be like an Ace of Pentacles. I feel like it may be something that's a little bit more internal. So it's like maybe an emotional refreshing or like a refresh of passion. So it's kind of like a sense of direction or drive, or maybe even a mental one, just because we don't have a sword showing up yet. Oh, the Death card, very interesting. So the Death card is all about a huge monumental transformation and change. And I feel like that could even maybe be what this victory for you is. It's like, again, I think you left something that, you know, made you feel like you were kind of being dragged down by a little bit. You know, the thing that I said earlier when I was reading the book, where it's like if these people are kind of getting, or not people, but Numen, as they are called. If these Numen are kind of like sinking, and it's like with this card being in reverse, it's almost like you guys are rising. It's like, I think you have risen, you know, you have risen up out of something that was not serving you anymore. And through that process, I think you achieve this really big internal transformation, that it's like you're kind of like a different person now because of having worked through this. This to me also just has a lot of like movement to it. Like it's in this particular deck, it kind of reminds me of like a journey card, like the Six of Wands or even the Eight of Cups, which is actually on the bottom of the deck when I pulled the Death card. I don't know if you guys saw that. But yeah, it's like I think you guys have gone through a really big journey, like emotional journey, through this change that you've gone through. Again, this is a huge transformation, and Death to me is one of the harder cards to get through because it does ask you to kind of like leave some part of yourself that wasn't working beforehand behind in order to grow into a new version of yourself. It's a little hard to make out in this deck, but it's like this woman who is sitting here kind of like collapsed, crying, obviously not having a super great emotional time right now. That's actually the woman from the Strength card, which I have a little tarot tip video about that, which if I can figure it out, I'll link a card here. But so it's like you have to give up strength. It's like the Strength card is all about just kind of like fighting for the things that we need to, or like, like just putting in enough time and energy to develop a skill to kind of overcome a hurdle or an obstacle. It's like with her being so defeated here with the Death card, it's almost like we've been trying and trying and trying to overcome an obstacle in our own way, but that's not the way that it needs to be, and we need to allow for a kind of ego death, just to undergo here. Or it's even sometimes too, it's like the things that start with the Strength card end up manifesting or peaking with the Death card, because it's like as we're working through just like the skills to do something, it's like something about us kind of changes at some point. And it's like I think with this change here, that's ultimately this victory, and maybe now because you've had this victory, now it could be time to revisit this thing over here. This is like resonating for me a ton with part of my personal story, where it's like I had a job that was awesome for a little bit, but then it became very not awesome, and like I ended up developing like an eating disorder because of it, because of how like stressful the situation was, and like it was really bad. I reached out to the owner a couple of times to just try to get help for me. Not like, like I need help with my eating disorder, but just like, hey, my job has become so stressful that it's like this is happening to me, and this has only ever happened one other time in my life, also at an incredibly stressful situation when a lot of my life was falling apart. So this is pretty not okay. And like, nothing came of it pretty much. Like, it was like a really bad situation. I won't get into too many of the details here. But kind of like a sinking ship. It was like one of the owners just really, oh gosh, it's like if he was trying harder, he couldn't be worse for the company. And very unfortunately, it kind of like, I don't know, it affects all of the other people who work there too. And I've tried to like reach out and fix the situation, but I did ultimately end up having to leave it. But Spirit has been calling me to reach out to the other owner one last time to try to just fix this thing, or not fix it, but just kind of like, bring awareness to kind of how bad things are, because I think people ultimately want to do good for other people. It's just kind of like sometimes they don't quite see things fully. And I know this is getting kind of away from the cards, but I did feel called to share that in case that is applicable for some people. But through my own personal process of leaving this thing, I also tried to find a couple of other jobs, but Spirit was like, no, you're going to do tarot now. And it's like, okay, I'm going to do tarot now, I guess. That's a lot more fun to me anyways. So I'm really trying to make it work. But I have had to go through a lot of like internal deaths through this process, where it's like, I was a certain type of person at this place, at this sinking ship. And it wasn't even a great person, It's like I was very stressed out, and, just due to, a management position, it's like you have to be the middleman for the owner all the time. So you're constantly just like the bad guy TM, because it's like you just have to try to enforce what your boss wants because that's your job. And then it's like you get a lot of flack from the employees, and then you're just like, man, I feel for you. But then it's like if you aren't super strict on your employees, then the boss gets mad at you. And I just, I was very ready for that part of me to die. Like that was not very fun for me. And I think that whole situation wasn't very fun for me. So I feel like for a lot of people, you may have left a situation that was just very unfun for you. And right now you may be going through a bit of a transformation where you're kind of trying to figure yourself out, where it's like, I had to build up a lot of things internally to just have to like be the role that I needed to be. But it's like, I don't care about any of those parts of me. I don't like a lot of them. And so I'm like, as I have gone through this transition of finally leaving, which to me was very victorious, I'm giving space to myself to transition back into a more aligned version of me that does more of the things that I want to do, that are closer to myself, that do feel just maybe a little bit more like this Page of Cups, where it's just like I get to feel my emotions a little bit more fully than I did while I was having to do this other thing. And so I don't know, I feel like that could be applicable for some people. It's like, if you're going through this hard transition and you're recognizing that it's like parts of your internal self that you have built up, you just kind of don't really like a ton, or you don't like the person that you have to be. You don't have to be that, It's like, certain situations will kind of make you have to be those ways. So if you can leave a sinking ship, I would definitely recommend doing it. And Spirit will provide, as Spirit always does. It may not always look exactly like how we want it to look, so for me, I may not be able to fully support myself on tarot right away, but it's a thing that I am going to keep working on. And I know that when the time is right, Spirit will give me the next step of my journey, and I will take it when it is presented to me. So, all right, this is going to be the first row here, so let's go ahead and see what's next. All right, so we've got Divine Masculine, Magic in Reverse, and Guides. So, very interesting. So Divine Masculine is like this pure kind of like yang energy. There's like yin and yang. Also, because there was the Page of Cups here, for some people it could even be that this person here is like a male figure in your life. So there's like a male person who is just like, I don't know, very vulnerable. It's like they're quick to share the things that they want to share with you. But for other things, it is like this yin and yang energy. So it's like yin is this pure receptive energy, whereas yang is this pure active energy. And so with this being here, I feel like kind of one of the things that Spirit is trying to teach you is kind of like how to be a little bit more active with things, or how to like engage with things rather than maybe always being super like receptive to things. Because the Page of Cups, again, upright, is all about sharing, being vulnerable. It's like, yes, you're sitting with this feeling, which feeling things is an internal or a yin aspect, but it's like the sharing of those things, actually verbalizing them and putting them out into the world, that is a yang, that is a masculine thing. So working on taking that internal energy and putting it externally, so outwardly expressing that. Which, kind of with the Pentacles here too. It's actually really interesting. So the Ace of Pentacles, because it's in reverse, it's got the upside down little star. And the Magic star, the Magic Pentacle is also in reverse here. So those match up, which is kind of cool. So for some people, I feel like this is going to have two like opposite ends of the spectrum for some people, but it's like, again, ultimately harmony lies right in the middle. So I feel like for some people, you may have been doing a little bit too much magic, and so Spirit is kind of wanting you to like pull back a little bit on that. But for other people, actually, no. So I feel like it's like the thing that it really wants me to say is there's this emphasis on like pulling back from magic. It's like when you do, and that's not like, hey, I love magic, I'm a witch, I identify as that. Like I like magic is all around us. And it's like, when I think sometimes we can kind of rely too much on magic to try to do things where it's like, it's awesome. It's a very real energy. It has very real effects on the world around us, in whatever particular branch you like to work with. But, sometimes we do need to take active energy too. And so it's like if you rely too much on magic to do the work for you, it'll take away from the kind of like joy of action that is there, where it's like, I feel like so much of life is just meant to be enjoyed, because if you think about it, like why would... If I was a God, if I was Source and I chose to create something like, just like, when we create our own little internal worlds, or like, like books and stuff, it's like if I was writing a book and I was creating a world and I was writing a story and it was one that I was meant to go in and live in, because like, we as human beings are a little piece of Source experiencing Source's creation through our physical bodies, I would create a world that was fun for me to go in and enjoy. You know, it's like I wouldn't choose to make life suck just so that way it's like me, this all powerful little piece of the divine, would come in here and suffer. Like that just, why would I do that, you know? And so it's like I feel like so much of life is meant to be really fully like lived, enjoyed, like just, and like the thing that just came into my mind was just like, and have life like breathed into it. You know, it's like when we really put our time and energy into something, it just kind of gives it a little bit of life and it just makes it almost stand up on its own. And it's kind of just like awesome. And like, you know, I think there's so much joy in like actively doing all of these little things that we can do, you know, that source and other people have kind of like given to us to do. I do think we're kind of in a messy like social just dynamic right now where it's like people really don't get that, or it's like I feel like people don't get that. I feel like so many people just kind of like suffer and like choose to try to make other people suffer because it's, you know, it's just very unhealed. I feel like in general kind of like earth is very unhealed right now and there's a lot of healing that needs to take place. But that's all besides the point. The kind of TLDR is like, you know, things are supposed to be fun, and particularly the things that we do can be very fun and enjoyable, and like the whole process of doing something can just be really nice. You know, it's like the whole thing where it's about the journey, not the destination. To me, kind of like the divine masculine is just about engaging in that journey. So, and again, magic is a very yin, it's a very kind of receptive thing. It's like it has an active part where you put it out into the universe and then you sit and you wait for it to happen. But again, there's this action that's needing to happen. So for some people, even it's like if you've been waiting for some magic to happen without actually putting the energy into it, maybe you could do a ritual or spell or something, but again, you have to back that with your physical action too. It's like if I was doing a little thing to try to manifest, you know, more tarot stuff or whatever, it's like I can't do that and then not also post videos, you know? It's like I still have to help meet the universe halfway. And there's even like the magician card in tarot. It's got like, you know, the magician is doing his pose, as above so below, and he's holding that double-ended candle, as above so below, as below so above. So as we work down below, universe will match our energy as above, but it will match the energy, you know? So it's like we got to put in a little bit too. And the last card that we have here is guides for the, or not last, but you know, last for this row. So this one is guides. So the guides card to me is kind of saying that I feel like for the people who clicked this one, I think you may be kind of like aware of your spirit guides, if that makes sense. So when I first started my spiritual journey, I had this one older friend and like kind of mentor who like, but when I first met her, she used to tell me, it's like, you know, when she would meditate, sometimes she would be aware of her guides and she could ask them what their names were. And, you know, she would get that sometimes she would get their names and she would look them up and they would be real people who like did stuff, which is just so cool. And like, you know, it's, you know, when our guides try to work with us, there is kind of like this very distinct energy sometimes. And like, I think for you guys, even if you can't pinpoint exactly who your guides are, I think you're aware of their presence and kind of like, you know, when they show up, you can kind of feel when they show up. And when you have that kind of like feeling at the very least of their presence, you can be aware of kind of like when they're trying to work with you. And it's like when the Page of Cups. Okay, so it's like when you can start with this kind of base feeling of being aware just that they're there, you can then work on developing that into being able to get some of those more fine details. And working with your intuition with your guides is very, very powerful. So it's like learning what a yes and a no feel like, and then being able to expand that into the more nuanced things where it's like a lot of times when I'm doing my readings, it's like I have no other way to explain it other than it just feels like a situation. So it's like when I was talking about all of this stuff up here, it's like the thing that kept popping up into my head and my heart was just my work situation, and then it progressed through. And yeah, I don't know, it just like I think you guys can kind of like when you start to work with this energy, and particularly when you start to work with this same energy, it's like it builds. It's like you will get these kind of peaks of understanding as you go through it. And it's like these peaks could be like that divine masculine. It's like that yang energy. So it's like when you feel these peaks and you kind of like understand what it is they're trying to share with you a little bit more pointedly, that's the time to act on it. So it's like it could be that it's like with this, there's like kind of like a timing aspect of the action that's important. And that could even be another thing that your guides are trying to work on you or work with you on. So, all right, that's that row. Let's go ahead and do the next one. Okay. Very interesting. So 2 reversals here. So you've got the 9 of Cups in reverse and the Ace of Wands upright. So let's see. So sometimes when I pull 2 reversals, I'll like to flip them upright. So I'm kind of feeling whether I should do that, but I think it does want me to read them in reverse here, which is interesting. So I'm being called to the Ace of Pentacles in reverse, which aces in numerology are 1. When you get the 9 of Cups and you add the Ace of Wands, that gives you a 10, which reduces down to 1. And honestly, a lot of times in numerology, it's like what they say is a little cheat is you can always just remove the 9s and you always get the same number. So really interesting. So the 9 of Cups is about self-satisfaction, or it's like working and developing like, you know, this emotion or how you feel about something until you are just like personally pleased with it. So it's like you being satisfied, you feeling like this is complete, and not really having to worry about anyone else to fill your cups because you filled your cups. Look at you. You've got all your cups right there. Oh, they're so full. They're so amazing. He's even got like a full coin pouch here too. So it's like when you are very like emotionally satisfied with things, usually the kind of physical will reach to match it too. So with it being in reverse, and kind of a reminder to this Black Newman in reverse is I think the situation that you may have left is one that you still don't feel very happy about. For me, mine doesn't have any closure to it because I tried to reach out to one of the owners and he just fully ignored all of my emails, which hurt a lot. But you know, it's like there's a thing, you know, I am going to take my action, my divine masculine energy, and I'm going to try to make sure he reads them, even though I don't work for that company anymore. But, you know, it's like with it being in reverse here, I think you are not pleased with how something worked out. And that could even be one of the reasons why there's not this new beginning happening for you yet, is because there's kind of like this emotional, process that needs to happen for you that hasn't happened yet. And I think the first step towards getting to this sense of culmination and emotional completion is by starting with this Page of Cups. So it's like, you know, just sharing the things that you're feeling, even if you don't have it figured out yet. I know that's a big thing for me personally because I didn't have a stellar childhood, as I feel like, you know, most people don't, honestly. Laughing for the trauma, but you know, it's like when I grew up, it was really hard for me to kind of like share, or it's like my parents both grew up in very militaristic households, so it's like, you know, they were both just kind of a little bit strict. And, you know, I'm sure when they were kids, they weren't allowed to feel sad or cry too much or all of these other things, which sucks, you know, that's bad for them, but hey, don't take it out on me, that's not my problem. And so it's like, you know, because of that, it's hard for me now, even as I am a little bit more conscious and, you know, emotionally aware of the things that I'm feeling. It can sometimes be hard for me to open up to people unless I feel like I have fully figured out what it is I'm feeling. And it's like that being in process, or that being in like, oh man, I don't want to say the wrong thing. And then this other stuff, you know, just like, you know, it just is perceived very negatively in my mind. You know, it's okay. You know, it's, I think, you know, the times that I have shared myself in process, it has been very nice because it's like, you know, kind of like what we're doing here. If these are all the kind of base elements and then it distills into a single point, when you share with other people or even yourself through journaling, just kind of all of these base things where it's like, I'm feeling mad, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling abandoned, I'm feeling like whatever it may be. When you put them all out and then you try to just kind of like find the commonality between all of them, I think that can help a lot. But it's like you have to first start to engage with that process for it to happen. And I think that's what this will happen, and that's when this will happen, and that will make you just in general feel emotionally more at peace and satisfied with whatever situation is going on for you. The other one that we have here is the Ace of Wands in reverse, which is interesting. So Ace of Pentacles in reverse, Ace of Wands in reverse, and we've got the Divine Masculine, which would be like a fire card. Wands is fire, or if you were unfamiliar with tarot, the suit of wands is the suit of fire. It's kind of like almost like because you're not satisfied with the situation, that's the thing that's kind of like preventing you from wanting to take action. When it's like, you do need to take action because that Divine Masculine card is here upright. Or it could even be that it's like because you don't feel satisfied with this, it's like you're taking the wrong actions. Not that there's ever like a right or wrong per se. If something isn't meant for you, Spirit will just kind of keep closing doors for you. Unless you keep pushing it, usually bad stuff doesn't happen. So, be assuaded of your fears there. But let's see. Yeah, it's like this feeling of not being satisfied is preventing you from taking action. And even kind of like with what I said a little bit with the Page of Cups and the Page of Cups and Nine of Cups, where it's like, not wanting to move forward on things until you have it figured out. That could also be the thing that's keeping you from taking action, is because you don't feel like you have it all internally figured out. It's kind of preventing you from wanting to start, when it's like, 9 plus 1 again equals 10 equals that 1 again. It's like, I think by taking action and by just starting this process, it's like it will just naturally start to manifest and happen for you. But it's like, I think the focus needs to be on like a combination of that emotional satisfaction and like engaging with this emotional journey while you're taking action. I think that will be like an important distinction for some of you people watching. But all right, so let's distill it into a single point. What is the card? Authenticity. Oh my goodness, yes. So that is so perfect for this, and 427 is actually my birthday, so that's really fun for me too, because I feel like this pile here was very personal for me. So kind of like this. So it's like, taking action on the things that you feel just very emotionally at peace with. To me, that speaks a lot of authenticity. It's like this thing is so in alignment with you that when you act on it, it's like you are just so like, yep, this is everything I want it to be. This is everything I feel like it could be. I feel just very happy with this authentic expression of my internal desire. I think that's ultimately kind of what this whole situation here, or these multiple situations, is trying to teach you, is ultimately how to be a little bit more authentic to yourself. It's like, for me, I went through a bad situation where it's like, I probably didn't stand up for myself as much as I should have, where it's like I really should have put my foot down a little bit more. I would even, I did try in my situation where it's like, I did say multiple times that things were not working with the way that they're currently operating, but it's like the owner, just talked me into doing stuff again, or like, just like having things continue in the way that they were. So I wasn't being authentic to myself, where it's like I was saying the things that I needed. This person was saying they didn't want to do that. I should have stepped away a little bit sooner, but it's like I was not aware of that in the situation. But now I am. And so, that could even be the thing for you, is like, maybe you left this thing because it felt very inauthentic to you. But again, for some reason, Spirit is wanting you to kind of wrap something up with this last cycle here, and do it in a way that feels very authentic to you again. So whatever it is that you need to do. For me, I have one last little email I need to send. Ooh. But it's like, sitting with it until you feel comfortable with it, and then authentically, like, just feeling like you did your most authentic expression that you could have possibly done in that situation. And also, again, with that Death card here, where we were talking about, it's kind of like the parts of you that you built up that maybe weren't in alignment with yourself, and those kind of falling away through this kind of victory process over here. I think that's, again, tying back to authenticity, where it's like, ultimately the thing that you are meant to be doing, and the doors that Spirit will open for you, and the magic that you will see manifest in the world around you, will all be the things that are in alignment with your most authentic version of you. So that is what I have for you guys, pile 1. If this resonated, go ahead and leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below. If you would like to support me, I offer personal readings on my website, as well as all of the decks that I used in this reading are also all available on my website, and that will all be linked down below. So thank you so much, pile 1. I'm sending you all back with so much love, and I will see you in your next video. Bye. All right, hello, pile 2. Welcome to your reading. So the kind of layout of the spread that I'm going to do is it's going to be like an upside down pyramid. So we're going to have all these different factors that may or may not be related or feel related in your life, and then it's going to distill down to one single point, and that's the core message that the universe is trying to give you. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we got Psychic in reverse, Shift upright, Fire in reverse, and Release also in reverse. So very interesting that the only card that is upright is Shift. And you see how it's kind of like the Psychic card has like the two cards that are overlapping a little bit. The Shift card is fully separate from each other, where it's just those points of the triangle touching. And you've got a triangle over here too. And then it's like the Release is like a cut card. So it's in reverse though, but this is all really interesting to me. So it's like, I feel like for some of you people, for some of pile 2 here, I feel like it's like you have a shift that you're trying to go through, and it's like you're trying to have a little bit more overlap than Spirit is wanting. So let's see, I'm gonna, with the Psychic card in reverse, what do you want me to say? So with the Psychic card in reverse, it's like, you know, Psychic upright is about being able to kind of like see the underlying just like effects that things have, or it's like kind of being able to see the future with kind of just the factors that have happened in like the present and the past. So it's like by seeing the kind of trajectory of something, you can kind of see what's most likely to happen here. And I think that's maybe what that Venn diagram is just kind of like what's where it's like these two worlds kind of meet in the middle. The Shift card here being totally separate to me is kind of saying that it's like, I think whatever you think may happen, or it's like, you know, whatever situation it is that you're currently going through, or why it is you're watching this video, you know, I think there's something that's a little bit more drastic that's meant to happen, or something that's very out of just like, it's like what is coming in for you through this shift is not something that you could have predicted. It's like based on your past experiences, it's almost like you would have no way of knowing what this shift is going to be moving forward. Maybe because it's so drastically different from the things that you have experienced in your past and currently your present. So with the Fire card being in reverse, it's interesting. We got the last reading, pile 1, was very like active energy. It's almost like for this, because it's like you don't really quite know where this is heading for you, it's like the best thing that you can do is be receptive. So in alchemy, sorry, that took me so long to think of. In alchemy, there's like, you know, the different symbols for the different elements. When you have a pure upside triangle, that is fire. When you have a pure upside down triangle, that is water, which is one of the cards in this deck. So it's like you're needing to be a little bit more receptive, but rather than just having the water card come up to say, oh, you need to be more receptive, it had the Fire card come up in reverse because it is wanting you to be more receptive by taking less action. It's like with the Fire card, again, pure active, yang, output energy. It's like when you have too much output energy, it's like you're going too much in this direction. Like if your doors are constantly swinging this way, it's like it's hard for something to kind of go against the flow to try to come in to, you know, your little house here, I guess, in my metaphor, saloon, because I was thinking of saloon doors. So it's like, you know, like a river. It's like if something is constantly flowing in one direction and then some, like a little turtle or something is trying to swim upstream, it becomes so much harder. And it's not to say that it won't make its way to you, but it will happen a lot slower than I think you're wanting. And I think with this shift, you know, it's like, I feel like with most transitions, by the time we finally get to the point of having a shift, it's been kind of a long time coming. Maybe that's just me because I'm a Taurus. I'm a little bit slower moving because just steady consistency is a big thing that I crave. So it could be for you guys too, that it's like, I don't know, it's like counterintuitively, it's like the shift will happen faster for you, just the more receptive you are and the less kind of like active action you take. It's like, you can only water a garden so much, which how ironic, watering is an active form of gardening, whereas leaving them alone is that yin or that receptive form. So it's like, by overwatering your plants, it causes more damage than good. So Spirit is just wanting you to kind of like calm down a little bit, take a little bit of space, trust that your actions are having effects. But by taking too many of them, it's like you're watering it down a little bit, or you're watering down their effectiveness. So the next one that we have here is release in reverse. So very interesting. So release is all about usually kind of like cutting something out of the picture. With it being in reverse here, it's like, it's like it's wanting you to pull back on your actions, but I think it may not be wanting you to stop them entirely. It's like, don't fully cut them out, just like be a little bit stiller about it. It's like, try to have this energy meet you in the middle, So still do it. Just do it a little bit less, or it's like, give it a little bit more space between action maybe. So, okay, that's your first row here. Now let's go ahead and do your tarot cards. All right, so you've got the Emperor card upright, Eight of Swords in reverse, and Ace of Swords. Oh man, this sounded almost the same with my accent, but okay, so first one here is Emperor. So Emperor is about pure divine masculine yang energy. So it's really interesting that we got the Fire card in reverse, but the Emperor card upright. So the Emperor card I read as a little bit different from kind of like active yang energy, where I think there's kind of like a different aspect of it that tarot what's the word, like highlights. Yeah, it's like a different factor of that yin yang energy that tarot highlights with the Emperor and Empress. It's like, to me, the Emperor is more about kind of like structure and order and making sure that everything just kind of is a little bit more like sturdy and secure. As he rules his kingdom, he wants to make sure that everybody feels safe and at home and like they have all of the things that they need, even if he has to be a little bit stricter, just on laws or, ordinances or things like that in order to make it happen. He's okay with doing that because he knows what he is building for himself. So it's like, I think that could kind of be the thing here, where it's like, maybe rather than taking more like active energy, it's like kind of focus a little bit more on like planning or structure, particularly if you do have a big shift coming into the picture. It's like, you want to make sure that all of your foundations are set and secure before these things really do start to take off. I know that's a big thing that the universe tries to teach me, again, with my stubborn Taurus self sometimes. I'm not so stubborn, it's like, I do recognize that it's like, we really, really do need good foundations in order for things to be built up a little bit more fully. Because when we don't have a solid enough foundation, stuff like the tower happens, where it's like when one thing kind of happens that like, knocks it a little bit, the whole thing kind of comes crumbling over. And we don't want that to happen. The tower is not a super fun card. So the next one that we have here is the Eight of Swords in reverse. So the Eight of Swords, when it's upright, is all about kind of like feeling trapped and helpless. It's like not being able to see the situation very fully. And so because of that and other factors or circumstances, just feeling like you don't have a ton of like ability to move freely for yourself. The real irony of the situation is that she actually has everything she needs around her to free herself. What's the best thing to cut a rope with? A sword. And she's got 8 of them there. But because she can't see the situation, she can't see these kind of things that are there for her to use. With this card being in reverse, though, to me, I kind of like to read this as the blindfold slipping off a little bit more, or the blindfold slipping off and the woman in the picture being a little bit more aware of her situation. So it's like, maybe when this loosens, or, because her arms are bound but her feet aren't, maybe she can move around a little bit and then eventually find one of these swords and be able to free herself. And I think it's really beautiful. Oh my god, yes, and so beautiful. We've got the Ace of Swords right here. So the Suit of Swords in tarot represents kind of like mental energy, so it's like ideas. So it's like, it really just takes one idea or one kind of like good, clean, like not clean, but it's like just like one well thought out thought or idea or understanding of a situation that allows us to see that we're not as helpless as we maybe think that we are. And with the Ace of Swords being here, I do feel like you guys will have this change of mindset, new idea, new piece of information, or something that comes into the picture that does help you see the situation a little bit more fully, or it does, again, just help you find one of those swords that helps you kind of engage with this a little bit more fully. I feel like the reason why it's like this fire card is in reverse is because you have to be receptive or open to receive this Ace of Swords. There's like a saying where it's like you can't fill a cup that's already full. And so it's like if you kind of think that you do already have everything figured out and you just keep continuing to like plow through and take action, you won't be receptive for this thing that the divine is trying to offer you. The hand that's holding the sword here, it's always like a disambiguous hand, is that the word? It's like, you know, just like a floating hand, usually in a cloud or something, that's holding the aces, like, you know, the Ace of Cups, the Ace of Pentacles, the Ace of Swords. And so it is the divine. It's the divine trying to give you this thing that starts and plants this seed that develops into the rest of the suit. So there is something, you know, obviously Spirit is trying to get a message through to you. Maybe that Ace of Swords will be the last card in this reading, and that will kind of distill this point that they have been trying to get through to you. Kind of like the little meme that always pops into my head is like, hi, we've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. Sometimes I feel like that source or our spirit guides is there just like, oh my god, we have been trying to reach you about this message, and you just like, oh, you keep not picking up the phone, you know? It's like you see that it's a number you don't recognize and you keep just putting it down like, no, pick it up, we need to get this to you. Which, you know, I feel that. It's really, you know, when we're inside situations, it's more difficult to see all of the things that are going on. And our spirit guides know that, you know, it's like they know how difficult it is to be on earth and be kind of disconnected from the divine in the ways that we are. Not that we're disconnected, but it's like, you know, in the physical world, it's, you know, matter is heavier, it's slightly lower vibration than the ethereal, kind of like spiritual side of things. And they get that. Okay, so we've got the 4/4 stability card, which is interesting because the Emperor is the number 4. So in numerology, the number 4 talks about stability. That's even the thing that I was talking about for the Emperor, is that structure, stable kind of energy. I really do think that's the thing that Spirit is trying to get through to you right now. And that could even be the new idea here, is that it's like you need to think about structuring things a little bit differently. And it's like when you do that, it's like things will just kind of manifest a little bit better for you, because it's like, again, if you don't have the right foundation, or like, you know, if like, you know, when they're building houses and it's like they put up those like the wooden stuff, the frame of the house. I don't build houses. It's like they put up the wooden frame before they start doing all of the other stuff. If the frame of the house is a little bit off and then you're like, that's fine, and then you keep building on it, it's going to have issues later on. And so I think they're wanting you to just revisit your foundation now before things get a little bit more advanced, because it's easier to make those adjustments now. And the other one here is rebellion in reverse. So maybe you've been a little rebellious with Spirit, or yourself even, you know. It's like rebellion is all about kind of like fighting against like the people in charge. Maybe you're fighting against an emperor here. I know for me personally, it's like, you know, I am currently working on trying to be the best tarot reader on YouTube. Believe it. That's a Naruto reference. But it's like, you know, there have been things that it's like my guides have been trying to tell me, but it's just for some reason, you know, due to just, I don't know, just different things going on. It's like I'll feel like I know better, even though I know I don't, you know? It's like I know I don't. But for some weird reason in these moments, it's like, no, I'm going to do the cards this way. Like, I feel like this is right. And then I get through the reading, they're like, no, we told you, Shemin, like, you got to do it this other way. And then I've got to redo it, and then it works out fine. But it's like, for some reason, there's still a little bit of that, like, rebellion in me. I don't know, this is going to be a really weird thing. Maybe this will resonate for some people. I kind of feel like I get this way a little bit because of, like, playing so many video games when I was younger. Not that it's like the video games made me rebellious, but it's like a lot of times in video games, it's like, you know, you have a lot of different like side quests and stuff to do. And so it's like a lot of times it's like they'll tell you, okay, here's the thing you need to do. And I'll be like, okay, cool. I'm going to do all these other things first because I want to explore the area. You know, I want to see if there's any other side quests or anything before I do that thing that I know I'm supposed to do. And it's like, sometimes it's like I catch that coming up in me where it's like, I know I have something to do, but it's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go do this other thing first. Just because I feel like, I don't know, it's like I want to make sure I'm not missing anything, but it's like I know it's like different in real life, but it's like sometimes stuff has just weird lasting effects where it's like, sometimes we watch a movie or we have an internal idea or something that just like prevents us from being able to do the things that like, we ultimately want to do and that our guides are trying to help us do because we just have some little weird reason why we feel like we should be doing something else. For me, sometimes it's video game quests, and that's just the thing that I can feel like, again, it just feels like that to me sometimes. For you, it could be something else, like maybe you just were rebellious with your parents because they didn't know what they were talking about or something else. And so it's just in some way you feel like you know better. But again, I think, oh, and it's interesting, 5 minus 1 is 4. So it's like, I think if you can cut out the like, that's interesting. So it's like 5 minus 1. So change minus the new idea. I feel like you guys may have even like you got a new idea or something and it's like the idea that you got wasn't quite the right one and so they're wanting you to go back and revisit something, which could even be why it's a little bit difficult is because you felt like this idea was so like divinely ordained or something. But you're really going to have to do some testing with this one. Like I think if you work with like pendulums or muscle testing or any other for it, I even have like a little like magic 8-ball I like to use sometimes because I feel like it's really easy for me to get a pendulum to say what I want it to say rather than what it's trying to tell me. But I feel like magic 8-balls work well. Hold on, I'm going to find it. So, I don't know, even if it's as simple as a magic 8-ball, you can count on it. It's like the divine finds all these little ways to speak to us and like, it's kind of just up to us to listen. I feel like there's a little bit of humility that has to come along with this where it's like, okay, Spirit, I am doing something wrong. What is it? What do I need to change? Because it's like, we build up these foundations and these kingdoms for ourselves so readily that it's like difficult sometimes to let things go, especially when that's like you thought that's what you were supposed to be doing, All right. And the last card here, oh, very interesting. It's the King of Pentacles in reverse. So to me, all of the kings are kind of like minor arcana versions of the Emperor. It's like if the major arcana deal with these like soul, grander, kind of like higher level aspects. So the thing that tarot is based off of is the esoteric symbol of the Kabbalah or Tree of Life. It's got these 10 different sephiro or nodes on them that are like what numerology stems from, and then all the different major arcana cards are like the pathways between them. The very bottom kind of like sephiro of the Kabbalah is Malkuth, which represents physical reality, and it's almost always shown kind of being divided into the 4 elements. And so it kind of is like the current reality that we experience is like these major arcana things that are kind of just divided into either a physical, emotional, mental, or whatever thing. And that's the Western understanding. I talk a lot about yin and yang, which is an Eastern thing, which they have like a different elemental system and they consider air to be the spirit element. So it's like their 5 elements don't include air because breath is spirit, ether, whatever. That was a message for somebody, I guess. But with the King of Pentacles being in reverse, it's almost like the kind of like foundation that they're talking about here isn't a physical one. So it's not a like a physical thing or like an actionable thing that you need to change. I think because it's the Ace of Swords here, I think it's a mental thing. So I think it's like mentally because you think about a situation in a particular way or you're thinking about, I don't know, just even about this in a particular way. It's like when we kind of like, so one of the reasons why the Ace of Swords is like, why, or how do I want to explain this? It's like, so if all of the aces kind of plant seeds that develop into the rest of the minor arcana journey, it's like, when we get a new way of thinking, or like when we change the way that we think about things and we kind of shape a new viewpoint, it's like we see the world a little bit differently. And so because we see the world a little bit differently, we see things we didn't see before. You know, we see opportunities, we meet people, we see situations a little bit differently, and it's like almost like a different viewpoint or a vantage point. So it's like if you're standing here, you know, you can see all of these crystals on my little crystal display. But if you're standing here, you know, it's like you're seeing a totally different perspective of it. And it's like, you know, when you're standing here, some of these crystals maybe you can't see them because this is in the way, or over here you can't see other crystals. And so it's like spirit is wanting to take you somewhere where it's like you just have a better vantage point. You can kind of see things a little bit better. And maybe by changing the way you think about things, you'll actually see these opportunities or things that you didn't see before that were kind of always there for you. Like these 8 of Swords. You know, those 8 swords are always behind her, but it's only when she can kind of like take some action, or like, you know, when she can kind of just like feel around a little bit, that she can see these things. And so it's like you're kind of just needing to see things a little bit differently. And I think by focusing so much on the physical, actionable things, that's actually the thing that's like preventing you from being able to see this a little bit more fully. Again, it's like this action that you're taking doesn't need to be like the physical action. I think there's maybe a little bit of like mental work that needs to happen first. So there you guys go, pile 2. That is what Source has been trying to get through to you. And so if you would like to support me, if this reading resonated with you, you can get a personal reading or buy any of the decks that I used in this reading on my website. But the best way and simplest way to support me is just by leaving a like, comment, and subscribe all down below. That really helps me out a lot. Go ahead and hit that bell notification if you would like to see all of the future readings that I do. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and letting me read for you guys today. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hey, welcome, pile 3. You guys picked the Ethereal Visions Luna Edition deck as your main one. So I'm going to go ahead and pull your cards here. The first like 4 cards that I'm going to pull are going to be kind of like all these different factors or things that you have going on in your life right now that kind of contribute to the overall message that Spirit is trying to share to you. We're going to go from 4 cards down to 1 card, and that last card will be kind of like the main point of it all. All right. So you guys got the 10 of Wands in reverse, the Knight of Pentacles upright, 9 of Wands upright, and 8 of Wands upright. So it's interesting, you've got the 8, 9, 10, and then a Knight, which is a court card, which comes after the 10s. But 8 and 9 are upright, 10 is in reverse. So it's really interesting. So the 10 of Wands is one that we like to see in reverse. The 10 of Wands is all about kind of like overburdening yourself. So it's like if the suit of Wands deals with the element of fire, which represents kind of like our passions, our drives. It's like the things that really propel us and motivate us to want to move forward. When you have the 10 of Wands, it's like you have too many things that you're trying to do. And because of that, you're kind of overburdened. You move very slowly. And sometimes some decks will have this being like a 10 of Swords, where it's like you collapse because of just the weight of what you're trying to carry. So with this being reversed, this is actually really good. The universe may have been telling you lately to kind of like lessen your load, like maybe to cut some things out of your life, or it's like hold off on starting, you know, this one new thing until you kind of do this other thing a little bit more fully. So again, good that this was in reverse. That's a positive lesson. If it was upright, it would be learning that the hard way. So that's cool. The next one that we have here is the Knight of Pentacles, but sorry, I actually want to talk about the progression of the wands first. So the 8 of Wands is the first one that's showing up in this little triplet. I know that's not how you say it, but I want to say it that way. And so the 8 of Wands is all about kind of like taking action to move forward. It's like the usual artwork has kind of like 8 wands flying through the air. And it's like, you know, once, to me, it evokes the imagery of like throwing a spear, and then it starts, you know, just like a battle or a war or something, where it's like you kind of can't take certain actions back. Like once they're out there, they're out there. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. That can be a good thing, where it's like once you do this thing, it's done, you know, it's out there and it can kind of live a life of its own. This particular imagery is a little bit different, and I like to read the subtle distinctions in the different decks because I feel like that's why we have different decks. This one, it's still about movement, but it's like it kind of has a little bit more of like a journey aspect to it, where it's like moving from one place to another, and it's almost like being driven by these kind of like wants or these desires, and it's like carrying them with you, and like just it's like wanting to share these things with other people almost. So you've got that there. The next one is the Nine of Wands, which I really like to read this the way that the like Wild Unknown tarot deck says, which I don't even have that deck anymore. I ended up gifting that to another like witchy individual. They were non-binary, so they use they them. But that was like a deck they always wanted. I did a reading for them, and Spirit just kind of told me to give them the deck, and so I did, and that was good. You know, it's like you're supposed to be gifted, you know, one of your first decks and all that. But the Wild Unknown tarot deck has it being where it's like you're on that last final step before the next like landing, you know, the next like story of like a building, you know, it's like the first floor to the second floor. It's like you're on that last step before you reach the next floor. And it's like you're being called to take action to kind of take that last final step or that push that you need to be in that next step, like stage of your journey that you need to be on. But, you know, sometimes that last step can always be the hardest step, and because you're kind of stepping into the unknown, some people will instead choose to turn around and kind of walk back down those stairs to kind of get back to the landing that they are familiar with. And so that also, with this particular deck that I like to read from, it's like there's kind of like this story of conflict in the Suit of Wands, where it's like the Five of Wands, 5 people standing in a circle, all hitting each other with sticks. And then the next card after that is the Victory card, the Six of Wands. The card right after that is the Seven of Wands, which is about kind of choosing to re-engage with previous conflict. We move away from that conflict, and then even still, when we are so far away, it's like these kind of old passions, these old desires, these kind of just, you know, conflict. It's like these conflicting things can sometimes come back to the surface for us, and we can choose to act on them and then go all the way back down to that Five of Wands and have to re-go through the Six of Wands, Seven of Wands, Eight of Wands, and all of those things. So I think with this being here and with the Ten of Wands being in reverse, it's like, you know, it's like even though this card is bad upright, it's like, you know, I think with it being in reverse here, I think you're kind of at this Nine of Wands right now where it's like you have an opportunity to take this next step or kind of go back and re-engage with things. And Spirit is wanting you to take that next step. It's wanting you to do this Knight of Pentacles, which Knights are all about moving forward, taking action. They're like, to me, minor arcana versions of like the Chariot card, where it's like moving away from something that was established through this natural sense of progression that happens with the Court cards, and just moving forward because that's just what you need to do sometimes. With it being here, I think there's like a phrase that popped into my head was live and let live. This could even be applicable to me. I talked about it in reading one, but it's like I have a situation with kind of like my old boss and work situation that honestly maybe I just need to let go of. It's like I think there could be some healing that should be facilitated in that area. And it's like, you know, the ways that I was wronged by the company are ways that people will continue to be wronged by that company unless there is some change that happens. But it's like, you know, I ultimately just kind of need to let go of like, you know, kind of like my ego aspect for it in order to move forward with it in a slightly different way, I guess. But with this being here, it's like, again, there's this forward motion that is needing to happen. Particularly, it's like with this internal drive or this fire that's coming up, it's like the action needs to happen in the physical world. So it's like the Suit of Pentacles deals with the like tangible aspects of reality. So it's like the things we can touch, the things that we, even like our jobs and our house and stuff like that. You know, money used to be tangible before it's all digital. And so it's like, you know, that kind of stuff and the stuff that you can buy and just like, you know, the things that our like physical body gets to interact with on a day-to-day basis. So let's see what the next cards are. Oh, I love that the relax card is 420. That's just so funny to me. Okay. Okay. So the first card here is support in reverse. Very interesting. So 333. So when we have threes in numerology, it talks about like teamwork and cooperation. With it being in reverse, it's talking about a lack of support and cooperation. So it could be that it's like you have people in your life who are either being like antagonistic or like detrimental to kind of like having things work a little bit more harmoniously, or it could be that you just kind of don't have the support that you need. It's just maybe not necessarily quite there for you. And it's like almost like because you don't have the support that you feel like you need, it makes it a little bit more difficult to kind of act on these things and even to take this last step that you're ultimately needing. Oh, it's so interesting that you've got the 333 in reverse, but the 33 upright. So support and then action. It's interesting. So it's like in this deck, it's like, double numbers are obviously awesome, but triple numbers are a little bit stronger. And they even have quadruple numbers in this deck as well, which are even stronger. But they all have like subtle different energies to them. So it's like triple three, when you add that together, is a 9 of wands. Again, it's like you don't have the support to take that last final step. Action, triple three, that's a 6. 6 in the Kabbalah that I talked about is Tiferet. Or maybe I talked about that in the last reading, but all of tarot is based on the esoteric symbol, the Tree of Life, which has these 10 different nodes. Each of them have a different name, each of them have a different number, which is where we get numerology from. Tiferet is my absolute favorite one. Oh, and even 420, 4 plus 2 equals 6, so that's a Tiferet card. Weed is Tiferet. But so it's like when you have 6, Tiferet is this one node that is like the only node that connects to almost every other node in the Tree of Life. It's like I'm going to put a picture of it here so it's a little bit easier to see, but it's like it is in the middle of it, and it's like everything kind of comes together so beautifully in Tiferet, and the word Tiferet even means beauty in Hebrew. That's what it translates to. So it's like the action that you're trying to take, or the like way that I think you should go about this, is like trying to tie everything together so beautifully. It's like maybe the action that you need to take, and like even for me, it's like the situation with my boss. It's not that I should be trying to get like the last word in or kind of anything like that. It's like I really just want to kind of paint the picture and bring it all together. So it's like, hey, this is why you need to take action on this. Is because of all of these different factors, and I need to present it in a way that just kind of ties it all together. But I think that can be applicable for you guys too, especially because the Relax card, 420, also equals 6, which is that coming together. The Relax card too is saying that, like, even as you're going through this transition here, or it's like you're kind of at this point of needing to take action and move forward, and there's this sense of just like motion here, particularly with that 8 of Wands and that Knight and the Action card. Those are all just very motion oriented cards. Relax into it. It's like the universe has kind of like a flow to it, or it's like I'm kind of being reminded of like the Moon card. It's like the moon affects our tides here on Earth, where it's like depending on how close or far the moon is from Earth, the ocean is gravitationally affected by it, and it just moves in these kind of different ways. When you can kind of like relax a little bit, you can kind of start to get an alignment with this flow that's kind of already naturally there. And so I think if you were able to kind of like tap into this a little bit more fully, into just that flow state, or kind of just like, again, relaxing just a little bit. Again, with the wands here, it's like there is this active energy. Oh, my jaw just popped when I said that. Ooh. And even again, it's like this has kind of been a theme for some of the other readings, is like this balance of like yin and yang energy, which, there's the like the Taoist saying where it's like, from the 1 comes the 2, from the 2 comes the 3, from the 3 comes the 4, and so on and so forth. They don't say the so on and so forth, but it's like, it's you get it. It's like, out of all of these different things that it all develops, it all kind of stems from itself and from the previous step of the cycle. And like, oh my gosh, sorry, it just had me talk there for a second. I just blanked out. There's like this motion that's happening that I think is already like set into action, I think, based on the other things that you have done. Oh my gosh, why did I say the 1 comes from the 2 and the 2 comes from the 3 kind of thing? The 3 comes from the 2. Why did I say that? Why did I say that? Oh, yeah, the balance of the yin yang energy. Okay. So it's like, when we have an imbalance of a yin and a yang energy, it's like if those are the two, out of the one, out of source comes the two, the yin and the yang. How that develops is like source is, and for source to be, there has to be what is not source. So it's like the is and the isn't is that devolvement. And then from the is and the isn't are the things that are kind of, or it's like that gray area. So it's like when you have just an imbalance here, it's like you don't get as much of that blend that you're trying to get in the next step. And it's like there's been just like a balance of that yin and yang. I think for you guys, you're needing to take a little bit more like yang action. But again, with a little bit of balance here, with being able to feel a little bit of that flow, where it's like, I think there will be a proper timing of this, which again, the moon card is all about timing too. So maybe that's why the moon card popped up into my head. But by being able to just relax a little bit, I think it'll make it a little bit more clear what action does need to be taken, or kind of like when it is that you are supposed to take this action. So, okay. Ooh, all right, so next row here, we've got the Ten of Swords and the Page of Swords. So 2 swords. So it's also interesting that it's like you've got the 8, 9, 10. This one's in reverse, this one is upright, and that leads to the page, and after a page is a knight. So all of your tarot cards are in like numerological order, I guess because the court cards aren't numbers per se, but they're in order, which is very interesting. That starts from the 8. So the number 8 in numerology represents kind of like abundance, but also to me, if you take the number 8 and you turn it sideways, that's an infinity sign. And the infinity sign, it is a closed loop. So it's like energy goes up and then it goes down and it goes up and it goes down. And it's like, I feel like sometimes when we get the number 8, it's almost like there's the possibility of a cycle to repeat. And it's like if we can break that cycle, that's where the abundance comes from. So I feel like for some of you people, kind of like the action that you're needing to take is something to break a cycle, where it's like, for me, for my job thing, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to break the cycle of just kind of like abuse within the company, not like physical abuse or anything like that, but just like kind of like mental abuse. It's like the owner didn't really care about our like, the employees' well-being, and kind of like my therapist used the word exploitation. And it's like, I would like to make it so other people don't have to go through that if I can share some of my experiences. But, so for this here, it's interesting that it's like 9 of Wands upright, and then it's like that turns into the 10 of Swords rather than the 10 of Wands. So it's like still this feeling of kind of like defeat or like collapse, but it's like just in your head. It's like you're already kind of like mentally defeated about this, which again, @ing me for my situation. But it's like, I think kind of one of the reasons why the relax card is here is that it's like, this mental defeat, I don't think you're quite as defeated as you think you are. And it's like if you can start to kind of like quiet your mind and relax a little bit, like I'm seeing the 4 of Swords right now, which is about stilling the mind so that way you can see the kind of gift the universe is trying to offer you. I have a video or a tarot tip video about that I is either posting or I have already posted, which I will link here if it's posted. If not, I'll leave a comment down below about it. But it's like, when you can, all of these swords are wounds, obviously these are stabbed inside of that person here. It's like when you can start to remove these swords and these wounds and then kind of start to address the kind of like issue, or it's like the effects that those things caused you. I think that can help a lot. And it's like, more than anything, the universe is wanting like your own personal healing through this. It's wanting you to just like feel better, It's like if maybe, for me, the universe has held me back in this particular situation that I'm in because I was a little bit spiteful about part of it, because like, I was really hurt by the company in some ways I won't get into here. I think I kind of got into them in one of the other readings, but I may cut some of the details out. There's this, I think also too, with this card being here, it's like you have been hurt. I think even with the kind of like 9 of Wands that I talked about, where there's kind of like this progression that starts all the way with the 5 of Wands, which is that conflict. And even that ties to the Five of Swords, where it's like, there's kind of like a different kind of conflict, but in this particular deck, it's like one of the guys has a very visible stab wound in his shirt. So it's like, the wounds are real. This pain is real. I think some of it is your mind being a little bit more mean to you. So it's like your mind is the one that's hurting you, but it's okay to call these out and address these things, because I think by addressing these things, you have to move through the tens in order to get to the pages and the knights. It's almost like, you see how much stronger and victorious looking this Page of Swords is? It's like she is the version of her who removed all these swords and then chose to kind of take action, or like fuse those all into one mega sword, and then, use that moving forward to kind of help guide her way. And it's like, I love that it's like we have this progression that we have. So it's like pages are all about kind of like this like beginning energy. It's like a different kind of beginning than an ace, where an ace is like a fully brand new beginning, a like seed that has never sprouted before being planted. Whereas pages happen only after the whole progression of the minor arcana, like number cards. So it's like, the ace to the 10. It's like after this whole journey has already gone through a cycle and kind of set itself up onto the next leg of its journey, because again, for tens, 1 plus 0 in numerology just equals 1. So that's its own new beginning of a journey. And then 11 is 2, and so on. So it's like with the pages, it's like through this journey or this cycle that you've been on, it's like choosing to do something about it. It's like, you don't really quite know what it is you want to do, but you're kind of figuring it out. Particularly with the Page of Swords, this is like a mental energy. It can also deal with communication as well. So again, for me, I'm going to have to communicate one more time, or like, communicate with them. And it's like, that could even be a thing here too, where it's like, by having gone through this whole cycle and then kind of figuring out what these 10 swords are, you can then choose to like act on those things or share those things, and like in some way that inspires its own little progression of mastery. And then the page goes to the knight, where it's like, once you kind of have started like developing this a little bit more fully, it will eventually get to the point where you can take action on it. And maybe it could even be that it's like, through this reading, Spirit is trying to tell you that it's like you're trying to take action on something that you haven't even quite fully figured out yet, because you're kind of avoiding addressing these wounds. Again, 10 of Wands was in reverse here, 10 of Swords is upright here. I think through just kind of taking a little bit of space, you can see these a little bit more fully, and then only after this, then you can take action. See, it's like this sword points to the action card, so it's like after these swords are addressed, then this is the right time. So all right, and the last card here, is the Death card. Interesting. I flipped it differently than how I usually flip my cards, but this is how it wanted to come out. So it's almost like if I did it the way I usually do it, the Death card would be in reverse. So there's not this huge transformation and shift and change that's wanting to happen. But because I did it a slightly different way, but it's the thing that just intuitively felt right to do, it's like that's the thing that created this Death card. So I really do think kind of like through all of this, it's like you do need to take action, but it's like, again, going to be a little bit different from the way that you thought it needed to be. And it's like, through that process, through removing all of these swords, it's like from the transformation of this 10 of Swords, this mental defeat, into this Page of Swords, this kind of like more confident, it's almost like inspired by this. You see how it's like there's the wind that kind of goes upward from this, and then there's like this wind, which, even though it's like the lines are very similar, this just looks stronger. This just looks healthier. It's like she's able to kind of stand up and face this wind when it does blow to her. She's transformed. It's like this version of her had to die so this version of her could be born. And I think that's like, you need to not be okay. You need to be okay with having to change who you are. It's like the way that you were was not working so fully, or it's like, obviously you felt this way, and it's like, while it is difficult to go through very intense transformations, I think it's sometimes very necessary. I feel like you guys may even want to go back and watch pile number 1, because the Death card came up in there, and there was, because it was from the tarot, there was a little bit more symbolism for me to pull off of. But in the Death card, usually there's like the woman from the Strength card who is like defeated in this card, and the kind of symbolism of that is, it's like when we're going through these transitions, sometimes we do just have to kind of let go and surrender to the process. It's like when we try to hold on and like shape it into what we want it to, it can sometimes work against it, and then that kind of creates a more difficult tower moment later on in the journey. So that is what I have for you guys, pile number 3. If this resonated with you, go ahead and leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below. If you would like to support me a little bit more fully, I offer personal readings on my website, and I also sell all of the decks that I used in this reading on there as well. And those will all be linked down below in the description. So thank you so much, guys. I love you all so much, and I'm sending you so much luck, love, and success for the rest of this little cycle that you're working through. Again, I do think there is the potential for a really deep transformation, which, is even kind of hinted at in the death card here. But very, very synchronistic reading. A lot of just kind of like everything flows so naturally into the next year. And I think you guys just kind of have to give a little bit more into this flow and then kind of just take the action as the flow makes it arise. So there you guys go. Take care now. Hello, pile 4. You guys picked the Angel Number Oracle reading. So this is just your main deck. This will have the most cards in it, but you will have all the other ones, like I mentioned in the intro. But how this reading is going to work is it's going to start with 4 cards and then be distilled into one. So it'll be kind of like the different factors or aspects of this situation that Spirit wants to talk about, distilled into the main point of what they're trying to get through to you. So let's see what you've got going on. So, okay, we've got Infinity in reverse. We've got Choices, Optimism, and Twin Flame in reverse. So Optimism and Twin Flame are both in reverse. Infinity and Choices are both upright. So, Infinity is also in reverse, but I feel like the Infinity sign can't be upside down. So I'm going to read this card as being upright. But all right, the first thing I'm going to talk about here are these 2 cards. So we've got Twin Flame and Optimism in reverse. So I feel like for the people who picked this pile, I feel like you guys maybe just, sorry, a little hair there. I feel like you guys may have just, we'll say left a relationship, or maybe left wasn't the choice there. Maybe somebody else made this choice for you and they decided to end the relationship. But with the Twin Flame card being in reverse, I feel like this person was not your person ultimately, because obviously if they were your Twin Flame or like your ultimate end-all be-all person, they wouldn't have left you. I know that in the Twin Flame community there's the whole like, oh, runner, chaser dynamic, but I think that's very unhealthy for a lot of different reasons, because it kind of like encourages people to kind of still hold out hope for people who did decide to kind of like move on and, seek out different experiences. And it's like, I think most of the time, one of the reasons why it's hard to let these people go is because they don't do us the due service of giving us the correct amount of closure for the situation, where it's like, they tell you it's like, oh no, I still want to be with you. It's not me, it's you. Or sorry, no, it's not you, it's me. Or just kind of like, I don't know, all these other things. I had this one of my friends who may or may not watch this video. I know they would be okay with me sharing this. One of their exes told them, it's like while they were breaking up with them, it's like, oh no, I still love you. I just don't think I'm emotionally mature enough for this. And just like, that was really honestly like shitty of them, because it's like it made it so much harder for my friend to be able to like accept the end of this relationship. And like eventually they had to just like, they kept reaching out to them, and this other person eventually just was really mean to them, and that was like really not fun for my friend. It's like if the other person had said from the get-go, it's like, hey, I think we're moving in different directions, or it's like, I just don't think we're gonna work out, that would be so much easier for them to move on from than this kind of just like, just not really being real, not being honest with them, it's like not really sharing the things that they're feeling. And so it's like, it makes you feel like, oh, well, if this relationship was so good and they didn't really want to leave, then like, we can still work out, it's like we still can like get together and stuff. But it's like, that's just my take on this experience, is that that's a very unfortunate situation, and it's kind of sad that it's like people can't be just like healthy enough to have the difficult conversation. It's like it makes the situation way more difficult for you because they weren't willing to undergo just like a little bit of difficulty at the onset of this situation. And with the optimism card being in reverse, again, both the heart's upside down, which to me is saying that's like you probably, even if you didn't just end a relationship, I feel like there could still be some feelings for this person. I was in the twin flame culture for a bit, like I fully get it. For me, I was holding out hope for like one of my like best friends and a girl that I really loved in high school. We were best friends, called each other, like, we went on dates, called them dates. We like pretty much did everything but actually like date with each other. And then she just like, when I was going through a really hard time in college, just kind of fully ghosted me and just like, I never got any closure. And so for like years after the fact, I would watch twin flame videos, like thinking that she would come back when she had fully moved on and had been like, dating other people and in very happy relationships. But that's, I just felt called to share that for some of the other people out there, just because I think this can be a very difficult group, or like just kind of like mental thing to get out of, because again, there is something that you were needing that you didn't get from that person, so it's like you're still kind of seeking that person for that thing that you need from them, which is that closure. But optimism card is in reverse next to it. So I feel like because this thing didn't work out, or maybe because things ended in the way that they did, you're really not feeling very optimistic about the future. Again, this could be just thinking that they were your end all be all and that things are still going to work out for them. And because that isn't really happening, you're just feeling a little bit down on yourself, which may be why Spirit brought you to this video. Is I think it's like they don't want you to feel bad about this, because I think, again, this person or situation was removed from your life for a grander purpose, which is ultimately going to be getting you a better, healthier partner. As much as it may seem like that is not, you're not going to love anybody like them again, and maybe that's even a thing that they told you, which would be a sign of abusiveness. Telling somebody that no one's ever gonna love you the way that I love you. That's a classic abuser thing. I had an abusive relationship in college. That person told me that. I hated the relationship for a really long time, but I really fully believed him and did not want to take the chance that nobody else would love me like this person. But now I am married. I'm not wearing my rings because it hurts my cards when I shuffle them, but maybe I should for the aesthetic. But it's like, it's like the person who I'm with now is so amazing. It is the healthiest relationship I have ever been in, and honestly, one of the healthiest relationships I could even imagine. But it's like he's so willing to engage with me in just like difficult conversation about like, this is how I'm feeling. This thing that you did kind of like upset me, but it's like, I don't think I'm really upset about the action. I think I'm kind of upset about, just like what, like, in conjunction with all these other things that I have going on, I feel like this is kind of what it, just like what it feels like to me. And it's like, it's like I wouldn't have that if I didn't leave these other relationships behind energetically. And it's like, I'm so much happier now. But if you had told me in college or even in high school that I would have this other awesome, amazing husband waiting for me, it's like, I don't know, I kind of don't know if I would have believed me. So it's like, I get it if you're maybe a little mad at, you're like, Shemin, you don't know what you're talking about. This person was my twin flame and they are going to come back. Okay, cool. If you want to believe that, that's totally fine. I am just reading the cards based on my experience and what I feel called to say here, and live and let it be. Okay. So the next card that we have here is the choices card. So choices, which is actually interesting. This is the anniversary date of me and my husband when we were just dating. We first started dating on 12/12. But so the choices card is about choices. So it's like we have so many choices and decisions that we can make as we move throughout our life, and also just like choices that we can make for ourselves too. And it's like, I feel like right now you're kind of being presented with a choice, whether it be kind of like to continue pining over this person over here, or whether to kind of move on to other possibilities. It's interesting that we have the infinity sign right here. So I actually just talked about this in pile 3, so if you feel called, you may want to go back and watch that one as well. I feel like all of these readings have been connected in different ways, so there's definitely messages for everybody in all of these readings. But the infinity sign is, when you turn it this way, the number 8. And so the number 8 signifies kind of like abundance, but also because it's the infinity sign, it's an infinite or a trapped loop or cycle. So it's like the energy goes up and it goes down and it goes up and it goes down, and it keeps repeating in this way. And that could even be some of the, sorry to keep going on this, it could even be like a cycle of some of the relationships that you're in. For my abusive relationship, I actually took a like course through a just like a organization that was in the area I was going to volunteer with. And one of the things they taught us to look out for in abusive relationships are these cycles where they go through these kind of there's this honeymoon phase, and then a situation kind of keeps devolving and progressing into kind of this fight and this kind of just negative energy that we're in. And then there's this fight and this catharsis and this breakthrough. And then it's because you fought through this thing, then it kind of circles back into a honeymoon phase. And then the cycle keeps repeating where it's there's this moment of just this honeymoon phase where everything's great and everything's working out and it's awesome, and then it becomes very not so, and it's very negative emotions, crying, sometimes even just abuse happens in that, or that's the thing that kind of set it off. And then it's when you finally fight and work through it, then it's oh, everything goes back to being normal and it's all so happy again. But I think you have this choice right now is to kind of break that cycle, break that loop, break this infinity sign, and kind of move on to something that is a little bit healthier for you. When we do break cycles, that's when the universe likes to reward us, because it's the universe loves movement and energy and experiencing new things. If we are all the little thing in us that makes us people, as a little spark of the divine choosing to experience its creation through us, it's the universe does not want to suffer. The universe does not want to be sad. The universe wants to be happy. The universe wants to feel loved. The universe wants to experience good things. And so it's sometimes we have to make the choice, and it's difficult to experience good things. And it's sometimes the things that are not super great are very comfortable and familiar to us, and we know what to expect with them because we've been through this cycle so much. And it's easier for us to kind of brave that cycle again rather than going out into the big scary unknown. Hey, I get it. I was in my abusive relationship for 4 years. Plenty of people are in them for longer. It is a psychological thing, and it's very hard to be in this cycle. And I feel that could just be very applicable for some of the people watching this. If you do feel you are in an abusive relationship or something that is not stellar, do try to reach out and get help. I know this can be a very isolating experience where sometimes they don't like it when you have friends, because it's they know that they're being a little shitty, and so it's having other people around you that can tell you that they're not being great is a thing that threatens them, and so they try to get you to cut out a lot of your friends, as was my experience. And again, all I have to go off is my personal experience, so again, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Maybe your relationship was not quite this abusive, but maybe this is just a thing that you may need to know. But it's when you're here, when you're in the middle of this cycle, it's when things are kind of in the process of changing from the up to the down or the down to the low, it's there's kind of these moments of opportunity. And I feel for you, there is going to be a choice or an option coming up very soon. And I think, I think this may have even been a slightly long time coming, where it's one of the reasons why Spirit may have pulled you to this video is because, again, it's just trying to give you one more little oomph, one more little push, and maybe this video won't be the thing that ultimately makes you make this choice, but maybe it'll be a thing that plants a seed in your mind that makes it a little bit easier a year or so from now, or when this opportunity does come for you. So let's go ahead and do your oracle cards. All right, so we've got the Seven of Pentacles, the Ace of Swords in reverse, and the Star card also in reverse. So with the Seven of Pentacles, the Seven of Pentacles is a card that's all about seeing what's developing. It's as you've planted a seed, there becomes a point where it's you plant a seed, you water the plant, and it starts to show fruit, but it's not ripe fruit yet. It's green tomatoes or green blackberries or green strawberries or white strawberries, I guess. But it's it's when you can see that something is forming and it's happening, but it's not quite time to pick it yet. Sometimes that can be the best time to take action. It's oh, I can see what this is turning into. I can see that this is turning into another breakdown or another fight or something like that. And I am going to choose to develop it a slightly different way or make a choice in a different direction. The next card is the Ace of Swords in reverse, but I actually want to talk about the Star in reverse too, just because it's over here with the Twin Flame in reverse, which I feel is important. So the Star is our kind of grand ultimate sense of purpose, and One of the ways I like to explain this is like when you're doing like in high school when we had to do like reports on all these famous people or whatever, like that we have to do reports on. It's like when we're doing like the outline for their life, it's like all of the big major things that they did got like a big bullet point, and then all the little smaller things that fit into that got the smaller bullet points underneath it. The star represents one of these big bullet points. And so I feel like, for me, my ex was, or exes, I guess, were both really big chapters of my life, but not in a healthy way. It's like they encouraged a lot of growth. But it's like, I think the reason why this star is in reverse is it's like, this isn't your star anymore. Like, this isn't your purpose. This isn't the thing that you're supposed to be doing or the thing that's ultimately in alignment with you. And I think that it's like, sometimes we need the very blunt truth in order to make very hard decisions where it's like, for me, I had a friend, my best friend was fully aware of the situation. She kind of knew how bad the relationship was. We all lived together, even like she was my roommate and my friend. And it's like, after I got out of my relationship, we had a couple of talks about just like it as a situation. And she said that it's like, she knew how bad it was, but she didn't want to say anything about it because she didn't want me to leave her as a friend, or she knows that a lot of times people in abusive relationships will kind of like, when people try to give them help, they'll fight against it in favor of their abuser, which, it's psychology. It's like, it's a thing that happens. And like, I really wish she would have been able to like be a little bit more brave for me, or it's kind of like love me as a friend more than the kind of like initial discomfort of like having to have that hard conversation with me, because at the very least, I think it would have planted a seed that would have grown and have been like, maybe this isn't great. Maybe I'm not supposed to be crying like almost every single day or week about my relationship. Like, But it was my first real relationship, so I kind of just didn't really know any better, and like, it happens. And I think kind of like with the Ace of Swords being in reverse here in the middle is maybe that's kind of a thing that happened for you, is maybe nobody has been brave enough to be very direct enough with you and tell you that this isn't the thing that's healthy, this isn't the way that a good relationship should be. It's like, I think we get so caught up in like, well, it's like I feel a lot of things. It's like, I feel passion, I feel sad, I feel happy. It's like I'm feeling all of these emotions, so that should be good. And even a thing that it's like my abuser said, it's just like, oh, it's like, at least we don't have a boring relationship or something like that. And it's like, I love my boring relationship, like I have my husband and it's not boring, but it's like, oh my God, I don't cry nearly as much, like I am so much happier now. And it's like, I have my best friend to hang out with and just love me all the time. And it's like, he doesn't hurt me, It's like my ex would kind of go out of his way to hurt me, it would feel like. And like my husband doesn't do that. He tries to help me remove these swords. He sees the ways that I have been wounded, and like, I'm about to start crying right now. But it's like, that's what a good relationship should do, is good relationships should see the ways that other people have hurt you and seek to never do that again. My ex would use those things against me, where it's like he knew that I wasn't loved fully by my parents, or like, on the off chance my parents see this, they did their best, whatever. But it's like, it wasn't healthy, and I think a lot of people can relate to that, But it's like, he used the wounds that I already had against me in order to get me to kind of sink further into wanting to be with him. Whereas my current partner, recognizes the ways my parents have hurt me, and we try to work through and around those things. He sees the ways that my ex has hurt me, and oh my God, do we try to remove all of those because that was so shitty. And it's like, that's what love is. Like, real love is not seeking to hurt other people that you love. It's wanting to try to avoid that and make things easier for them. And maybe even for some people, that's your parent dynamic that you grew up in, is maybe your parents also were abusive and they sought to hurt you in different ways, whether physically, emotionally, or mentally. It's like mental abuse and emotional abuse are all very real things. Most of my relationship was emotionally abusive, which would be kind of like that cycle there. But I do just need to call that out. I think it's like, it took me, even with knowing what I knew, years to get out of that relationship. So with this card, if you are still watching this reading, if you didn't see that and immediately click off, just pay attention to what is happening in your own life. Don't take my word for it, it's like, don't just take my word for it. Like, pay attention to it with your own eyes. And I think, also too, for me, it's like one of the things that did help me realize how bad and how long this situation was going on was by writing journal entries. And it's like I can go back now even and find, in my college notebooks, like me writing in the margins during class, just like all about how sad I was and how terrible my life was and how I felt like, this person hated me, but then it felt like he really loved me, and it was just really confusing and stuff. And like, one of my current friends is going through a divorce, and one of the things that got her to speed up her timeline a little bit was she found a journal from 8 years ago saying that it's like, she was still experiencing in that relationship one of the biggest issues that they currently have that they couldn't work through. And it's like that had been going on for 8 years, 8 infinity. So it's like, just pay attention. Just pay attention, I think, is all that Spirit's wanting you to do, because again, this is difficult and it's not easy. And like, just by being aware to it, it's like you are currently building your own choice. It's like you're developing what it is you want to do, what action it is you want to take. And I think just kind of like gather more evidence. It's like just keep looking at what's happening and like keep writing it down. And eventually you'll have a lot of things to go back and look at and maybe be like, oh my gosh, a month ago I went through the exact same thing that's happening now, and he told me it would never happen, or they told me it would never happen again. And it's like, just try to pay attention. Just try to see what keeps growing, I guess. So, ooh. All right. Oh, okay, interesting. So we got Veiled in reverse and Friendship. So it's interesting that we have the Friendship card here, because I think I kind of talked about my friend over here in the star position. But pay attention to what your friends think too. I think a lot of times it's like we get into things and our friends are like, oh, I've always felt some type of way about this person, or it's like, I never really saw it. Or it's like I never really understood why you guys were together. He always seemed so mean to you. Even like for my other friend who is currently going through a divorce, like, when she told other people about her decision, a lot of people in her life were like, oh man, yeah, I never thought that your, husband slash, soon to be ex, treated you the right way. And like, he never really seemed like he cared about you that much. And it's like, with the Veiled card being next to it and in reverse, it's like sometimes we get these veils over our eyes. It's like we kind of like, it's not that we like want to see a situation a certain way, although sometimes that can be the case, but sometimes too it's like someone else has put that blindfold over us. It's like they presented a situation or something in such a way that made us like, it's like they keep kind of trying to tell you that this is the way things are. And eventually kind of once that veil lifts and you kind of do just like see the situation a little bit more clearly, I think you can kind of see what some of your friends are trying to talk to you about. So, and I think too, it's like, even if you do kind of like start to write these things down a little bit more, and you can maybe start to notice, any cycles, if there are any cycles that are happening, it's like that can also be the thing that helps to remove this veil from your eyes. It's almost like rose-colored glasses, even with like this card being rose. It's like, one of my favorite quotes from the show BoJack Horseman, which I know, but there's a time when it's like BoJack is dating another character named Wanda, and it's like she says this line where it's like, that's the thing about rose-colored glasses, is like all of the little red flags just look like flags. And so it's like, it really is sometimes when you like really love somebody and it's like they've opened up your heart in some way and you really feel this sense of connection to them, and you've got those rose-colored glasses on, it's like you can make a lot of excuses or kind of like forgive a lot of things because you don't really necessarily see how bad they are. But kind of once those start to be removed, I think you can start to see the situation a little bit more clearly. Not to say that you're not seeing it clearly now, but I think it's like, again, it's like you're seeing these things happen, but your brain is not seeing it in the right color. It's like it's tinted a little bit. It's like it's just not quite clear, or exactly, it's not the exact situation. It's like you're still seeing it, but something about it is a little bit off and not quite transparent. Okay. And the last card that we have here is the Knight of Wands. So again, sometimes we do have to be very blunt the very blunt thing for this is like, you know, you do need to leave this person. The Knight of Wands is all about taking action, moving forward, moving away. And like, I think, you know, even if, let's say, this person ended the relationship and you're just kind of like, you know, pining after them still, it's like this would kind of be saying to, like, you know, allow yourself to move on. It's like, I think, again, one of the things that is so hard about these relationships is the lack of closure, where it's like, oh my God, I tried to tell my abusive ex that he was abusive, and like, once I really knew what it was, and like, I tried to just have a conversation where it's like, okay, these are all the things you did wrong in the relationship. Like, what did I do wrong? What would you have wanted me to do different? And he just like was like, no, why would I do that? And I was like, well, that's just what you do, you know? It's like in all the movies and stuff when people break up, it's like, well, you did this and you did this, well, you did this and you did this. And then you take it and you grow and you learn from it. But he just didn't engage with that at all with me. And he was like, no, I'm not doing that. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know. And like, it's hard. And like, even with me knowing how bad that relationship was, I still ended up getting back together with him a couple of times. Not really that much, or it's like, you know, it was like a month and then I was like, I really don't want to do this. Like, I know I just got out of this and stuff, but then it's just like, you know, and it's like, you know, it did end obviously very fully and stuff. And it's just like, it's hard. I think that could be one of the reasons why your spirit guides brought you to this particular reading, is just that it's like, I really know how hard this is. I know it's like, and again, getting very personal here on my YouTube page, like, oh my God, for just like, you know, the 20 viewers I get. But it's like, you know, it's hard. It's like, the thing that kept me in that relationship for so long is like, that was one of the first times that I truly felt loved in a particular way, where it's like, you know, it was my first real relationship in college. So it's like, I had gotten out of my parents' house. My parents were not super great, as I think a lot of people have super not great parents. And like, you know, my parents were very strict, very controlling, and like didn't really allow much of any space for like emotion or feeling things or just being in process, really. It's like I had to be so, I don't know. It's like there's an abusive family dynamic that's called like perfect on paper, where it's like, yeah, everything seems really nice and perfect and fine, but it's like everything is done for that sense of perfection on paper. So it's like, as long as you're checking all the boxes, it doesn't really matter what's actually going on, because oh my God, we're such a good family, like we do all this. But it's like, you know, that is why I stayed in this relationship, is because I felt truly seen and loved for me, rather than who my parents always wanted me to be, if that makes sense. And like, ooh, I am like trying so hard not to cry during this reading, because this is honestly like, I feel so much empathy, because I just like, I really, really get how hard this situation is. And it's like, I get how hard it is to take action. And it's like, especially in abusive relationships, they really do a lot of mind games to make you feel like just that is the only place you can receive love from. And they cut so many other people out of your life. So it's like, for a while, that is the only place you get love from. And it's like, when you cut this person out of your life, it's like you probably lose a lot of other people in your life too. Or just like, you feel like you lose access to experiencing those positive emotions. And it's like, it's so much better on the other side. It's like, it's a little bit of difficulty leaving, and then so much beauty and joy and reward just not having to deal with it anymore. Like, I thought it was going to be so hard for me to be by myself, but like, I loved it. I loved just kind of like not having a like man child to have to like take care of almost. Or it's like, you know, it's just like, I didn't realize how much of my own personal energy was being expended and drained by that relationship, just because I had been in it for so long, that like, once I left, I truly felt free. And like, maybe for you guys too, it's like, you know, again, I get the difficulty. I don't want to even pretend that I'm denying that. But if you can take even just a little bit of action, like one micro step away from it, so maybe it's like, you know, let's say they're a little controlling about who you can and cannot hang out with, or the things that you can and cannot do. Start a fight, you know, start a thing where it's like, I am doing this. I am going to join this yoga group. I am going to join this book club. I am going to do this and take my first step out. And like, you know, obviously safety, safety, safety. Mine was not as much physically abusive as it was mentally and emotionally abusive, although there were certain instances. Take your own safety into consideration. If you do have friends that you can talk to and kind of get things sorted out to be a little bit more stable and secure for you, after maybe making even a big step away from this, like, you know, just, I think, take your as big of a step as you can into doing something for yourself and see where it goes. You know, see what develops, see how your partner responds to you making a choice for you, because oh my God, how terrible for a partner to not want you to be happy. You know, it's like if I told my husband now that I was going to join a book club or something, he would be so happy for me. Whereas my ex, you know, actively made me like quit clubs in college because I wasn't spending enough time with him, and like I wasn't allowed to hang out with anyone except for him, because he knew that once I did, people would tell me how terrible he was as they did, you know? So that's what I have for you guys. I love you guys. Like, you know, like I don't even know you, but I love you, you know? And it's like the love that I have is just for like it's my love for you as a person and an individual, where it's like you are also a little spark of the universe who is just wanting to experience life and live and be loved and love other people. And it's like, I love that you want love and you want to show love and you want to feel love so strongly and so deeply. And I also love you enough to say the hard thing into telling you that it's like, I think there is a better source of that love out there for you. And I really, truly do hope that you find it and you get to a place where you can experience that. And like, again, I think choices here is the big thing, where it's like you are going to have to make a choice ultimately, and whether that choice be now or later, just I think the seed has been planted that you do know a choice is eventually on the horizon. So that is what I have for you guys, pile 4. And yeah, genuinely, it's just like I am going to do a bit of Reiki for this pile. You guys are getting all the stops, so you know, if you feel inclined to stick around for that. But yeah, I don't know. I would like to give you guys just like a little extra assistance. So forgive these little spots on my arm. I got eaten alive by mosquitoes a couple of weeks ago. They just love my blood type, apparently. So I'm going to go ahead and take these 2 heart cards that are in reverse, and I'm going to turn them upright, because this is what we're trying to find ultimately. And it's like, this person may have tried to convince you that this was it, but obviously your twin flame isn't going to hurt you in the ways that they are here. So we're going to manifest this for you. Twin flame and optimism in this next relationship. And what I did just there is like, I feel like you have all these peripheral kind of like sources of love that are trying to make their way to you, that I kind of just opened your heart space up a little bit and then drew those into that heart center, anchored them in there, and then closed it back up again. There was an initial kind of like breaking open of the heart that needed to happen. A little phrase that popped into my head was like, you cannot fill a cup that is already full, which I think even came up for one of the other readings. But there is love trying to make its way to you. And I think, you know, once you are open to it, I think it will make its way to you very readily and very quickly. And again, I love you so much, Pile 4. I really do hope that things work out the absolute best for you. And if I was totally wrong about this, feel free to leave me a nasty comment down below. That is totally fine. But just know that it's like, I don't know you, And it's like, I don't know you as an individual. I don't know your story as you're picking these cards. I'm not reading for you. I am just reading the cards and what I felt called to say. And if those things did resonate for you, I think it would be good to kind of take a look at what parts of it did resonate with you, and again, what actions you would possibly like to take moving forward from that. But I think a big thing here, again, is action with those choices too. So thank you guys, Pile 4. I love you. Take care. Be safe. Bye.